welcome to Speak Out. I'm Meg Lowy.
I'm Chris Zarp.
I'm Kendall Donace.
And I'm Tyler Appel.
And today, I was doing some homework and thinking to myself, what do I want to do for today's topic for the show? And so we decided to do school. And throughout the show, we're just going to kind of talk about homework, which we do plenty of. Am I wrong? Or
No, we do way too much.
No.
Homework, we're going to bring in some teachers from our two schools, the high school and the Ahern Middle School, and also give some stories that we have, some fun school stories and schedules. So, Tyler, why don't you start us off? What's like a normal day for you at the
high school?
High school?
Well, a normal day for me is basically starts off, I go to band in the morning, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. We play a lot of good songs and stuff, and, you know, it just...
Don't you guys have to come to school, like, super duper early, though?
Yeah, he wants us warming up by, like, 7:15, but it's good, though.
Worth it?
It's definitely worth it. After that, I have social studies, which is pretty awesome, I have to say. It's really cool, and I really enjoy it, kind of like learning about all that cool stuff. So then I have math, and, you know, math's not for everyone, but, you know, it's pretty cool. Keeps me busy. Then I have science, which is cool because I really like all the labs and stuff like that.
And are you doing bio or chemistry?
I'm doing bio this year, but yeah, it's cool. And then I have lunch normally, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But yeah, lunch is always good. You know, there's the eating and the eating and. Okay. Anyway, next is Then I have jazz normally, jazz or gym, and both subjects are really cool. I like jazz a lot, so I really like that. But gym's good too. And and then I have English. Yeah, English. And English is kind of difficult. I'm not the best English student, but you know.
I'm sure you're.
I try, so that's what counts, right?
Yeah.
Then I have Spanish. That's my last period, and Spanish is good. You know, not my forte, if I may, but yeah, that rhymed. But it's all fun, and that's my basic schedule, pretty much.
And Chris, like, any major differences with the whole high school and Ahern scheduling?
We don't have as many subjects in a day.
Well, there's one extra that he
there's
mentioned,
one
but yeah.
extra.
What is your normal schedule?
My normal schedule, I start off in English. From English, I go to APP Tech, which is a class where you work with computers, and it's like in a computer lab, and you do different experiments and stuff. And then I go to science, where we've just finished up the topic of planets.
We're doing that too.
Yeah. Then I go to social studies, where we're learning about medieval times. And then I go to reading. From reading, I go to lunch, and we have the last lunch of the day.
Every day?
Yeah, every day. We have the last lunch.
Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry. That's awful.
We barely have any food.
I know. It stinks.
Then from lunch, I go to band. And then from band, I have math.
Pretty cool.
Nice.
It is.
What about, like, with the whole, especially for you, Tyler, since you just moved up, so, like, I have a very, very, very short memory, so I don't necessarily remember everything about the Ahern as well, but as much as well. But what have you found, like, different? What are good things that you like more about the high school, or are different?
I really like the kind of newfound freedom of the high school. It's like a little more open and more kind of do-it-yourself type of thing. I think that's pretty cool, and I like that a lot. What I really like is during lunch, they have like tables outside and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Especially now that it's getting colder, it really is cool. But yeah, it's kind of fun because, you know, it's kind of like a breakaway of the day-to-day sitting in a class type of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good, but it's just kind of like a breath of fresh air, pun intended. Yeah.
Pun intended.
Pun intended, yes. Came to me.
What about you? You too. What do you like about the Ahern things?
I like how it is new compared to the high school.
Yeah, that's the one thing
Definitely.
that kind of bothers me about the high school a little bit. Well,
Yeah.
I don't care that much, but it would be nice if our lockers were like
Not from 1970.
Yeah,
Good year.
I have a few pictures in my locker covering some things that have probably been there for a very long time, and I don't want to look at every day. So,
Okay.
what else? Let me see. Sorry about that. What has been kind of a difficult problem for you going from the to the high school, rather?
Yeah. A big issue is really like the whole time between locker situation, because I don't know if I'm the only one, but getting between classes, trying to go from locker class, you really can't do it. Well, I mean, you could, but it's very difficult in my situation. My classes in my locker are so far apart, except for English and band. And another thing is, when I go into school and when I come out of school, it's the putting in and taking out of my backpack. I mean,
The locker's like this big. You can't put your backpack
it's
in
like
there.
that. I don't know if anyone's seen my backpack, but when I have stuff in it, it's like, poof. So it's like, wah. And yeah, it makes the sound effects too.
Almost doesn't
I'm sure it
fit.
does.
Well, I make it fit, but it makes it difficult to getting to class on time. But
That
I managed
was-
to do it.
That was something that I had trouble adjusting to, carrying your backpack around for all of the classes. It
Oh.
was just I didn't expect it.
It just kind of feels like,
I felt at first I
Weird,
was like,
yeah.
hey man, I'm a cool college kid. I'm walking around acting lame. But yeah, I agree with the whole running from class to class. I'm very lucky. My locker's right in the middle of everything, so I can kind of I go to my locker every period this year except for
Oh.
Spanish. So
that's awesome.
I
That's
like
good.
that too. But yeah, I agree. And without homeroom, it was only 7 minutes right after first period, but it was my breakfast eating time. So I haven't really adjusted to that yet. And for some reason, the time between classes is shorter rather than longer by taking out homeroom. I don't know why. But by the end of the class, or the end of the day, you're sprinting from jazz on one side of the building to Spanish, which is up a floor, and on the
Oh.
other side of the building. So that's not what I'm used to.
Oh, every time they make the schedules, they always have one of those in your schedule, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
Everyone always has that big, long sprint of sprinting.
Sprint of sprinting.
We have on day ones we have band, and then we have to go up the stairs to the other side of the building to either. What do you have, Kendall?
Oh, I have math or something like
Yeah,
that.
either math.
Math or
yeah.
something obviously really makes a huge impact on it.
It does.
Well,
It's the
because
other
the
side of the
switches-
building,
So
and it's at the other side of the building.
you
Yeah.
have to go all the way down and then back up.
It's a
Yeah.
bummer. Switching topics a little bit quickly before we head out. Homework, which I see you're reading my quantum
Yes, I
physics
am.
packet right now. I don't know why you would. I haven't read it yet, but
It's very interesting.
I'm so glad you can highlight it and take some notes on it for me, and I'd be really pleased because.
They give way too much homework.
Do you
my
think
gosh.
so?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it depends on the subject. Sometimes it makes sense because,
Yeah.
obviously, if you're doing something in class the next day and you have to read for it,
That
Like
makes
social
sense.
studies.
Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
especially in social studies.
Oh, that's-
And in
we'll,
English.
talk
makes
about
And
it.
in English.
So, yeah, why don't we take a short break to do a little bit of homework?
Yeah.
We
Cool.
Start
will
that.
be right back, and we're going to bring in two very awesome teachers, and we're very excited to talk to them. So, thank you very much. See you right after this. Hello, and welcome back to Speak Out. We're here with two very special guests right now, and I'd like to introduce them to you. So, this is Mr. Callahan, and he teaches history up at the high school. And this is Mr. Gill, and he teaches English in the middle school.
Correct.
So, you guys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves? And just
Oh, sure. I've been teaching here in Foxborough for about 14 years, I'd say. And I live up in Boston, Rosendale. And I started getting to teaching about 20 years ago almost. Started in the Boston schools. And then got my degree to teach and came down to here and been enjoying it ever since. So, and that's about it right now.
I'm a little bit behind him in terms of years. I'm on my 8th year in the district. All 8 have been in Foxborough. Got into teaching in my early to mid-30s, and I've never looked back. I love what I do, and I love where I do it.
That's awesome. I'm very glad. What do you try to do to make a class interesting, Mr. Gill?
There are many things you could do to make a class interesting. It's always good to infuse a little bit of humor when appropriate to kind of lighten the mood. And for example, we're just wrapping up a unit on grammar, which Chris can talk about. He loves it. And instead of a teacher-directed unit where I just stood up and talked about grammatical concepts and terms, I put the onus on the kids. So we broke up the classroom into grammar groups, and we took the 2 chapters that were related to the concepts, and we broke them into those groups, and those groups actually had to teach those concepts. So they came up with a presentation, a little lesson, and an activity. So, and for things that are a little bit less than exciting, I think, to study, I think sometimes kids learn better from other kids. So that's one way to make it interesting.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually is really cool. I wish we did that in my class.
Yeah, I'd like to do grammar like that.
It was fun.
What about you, Mr. Callahan?
Well, I take the approach that, all students come to class with different ways of thinking. Some things appeal to them, whether it's arts, whether it's reading something, whether it's writing something, whether it's getting active, whether through drama or, talking and working in groups and things like that. So using that idea, I try to use some variety in the classroom. It's not the same thing every day. And that way it kind of makes things a little more interesting, not only for the students, but for myself as well. So I try to use that approach.
What do you guys try to game when you give homework?
Well, I guess to make them suffer? No, only kidding. What we do is I use homework because usually it's, as I was hearing before, usually it's something that we're going to talk about in class the next day, so that's important that they have some kind of exposure to what we're going to be discussing. Or if it's the other way around, maybe I've introduced something in class, I want them to kind of reinforce what they've learned that day. And of course, there's always a test going along with that, so that's part of the issue as well, that we give homework. But sometimes it's more work than others, depending what kind of subject or what day it is that what we're studying, I should say, in class.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think there's a pretty big misconception with homework, and in my mind, homework is the best way to gauge student understanding or student comprehension of the things you did in class outside of the class. It's one thing to know what you're talking about when we're all talking about it in that class, but after you've gone through the rest of your day, you've transitioned back to home and sat down to start the homework, can you remember everything? Can you think in the same ways? So that, for me, is the most important purpose of the homework, to check to see if kids can understand after they've left the class.
Makes sense, I guess.
If you have to, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you have any questions for them?
What made you guys go into teaching?
Want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. You're going to ask something about, did I always want to be a teacher also, potentially? I kind of like to package them together. I went into teaching knowing that I always would go into teaching. I remember when I was in middle school, I was in a Catholic school in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, and we had electives on Friday afternoons once a week. It was from 12 to 2:30. And there was one semester that they didn't offer flag football. So I saw this tutoring program that looked interesting. So I hiked down 2.5 miles to the elementary school in the district, and I tutored a 3rd grade class for a semester. And I really enjoyed kind of being the intermediary between the adult, the teacher, and the little kids. And I remember thinking how cool it was and how I really enjoyed it. And I knew at that point that at some point I would do this for a living. And some 20 years later, I got into it.
For me, it was an accident, to tell you the truth. It was a matter of trying other things that I realized I didn't want to do. Whether it was work in politics, I kind of tried that for a bit. I tried odd jobs in Boston. I went to graduate school at Boston College. And then when I was trying to figure out computers and how to try to pass my classes in graduate school, I realized I needed to work a little bit to make some money for the rent and for food. And someone said, well, why don't you try substitute teaching? I said, okay, I'll try substitute teaching. And I started in Boston schools. I said, this is a good gig. I like this. This is kind of fun. Because with teaching, the important thing to understand is that we actually learn as teachers from you. And that's important to understand. It's not just we just tell you what we know and then we expect you to give it back to us. But every day is a different day. It's never boring. So we learn from you, and hopefully you learn from us. In that sense, I've always, since I've been in the schools, like I said, about almost 20 years, it's been a pleasure. I haven't got out of it yet. I really haven't left school, to tell you the truth. So I like it.
I was wondering, have you always been teachers, or you said that you've done other things? So you just basically did like odd jobs around.
Yeah. Some stuff like house painting and working in restaurants. Traveling a little bit. I worked overseas for a year, working with kids in Colombia, down in South America, which I thought was interesting. Traveling is important too because you bring a lot back to the class, especially in history. And I love music. And since when I was unemployed for a little bit between teaching jobs, I started playing guitar, and before you know it, you're getting some friends to play guitar with you, and so a little band on the side is kind of fun, just a little to kind of keep the creative juices flowing, as they say.
And you've performed for us too,
I have
right?
performed in school
for the
many times,
talent show.
the talent show, and once in a while, if you're lucky to have me in class,
Yes.
I do that. Yeah.
Mr. Gill, you said that you started up teaching like 20 years later. Were you going through graduate school and getting degrees in teaching?
Much like Mr. Callahan, I dabbled in the private sector. I worked for a financial services company for a few years, found it exciting for a while, but then reflecting on what I was doing every day, I realized this teaching thing is still with me. I want to do it, and I got back into graduate school.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
What do you guys look for when you're teaching? And everybody's different. So, considering that, what do you
In the
like?
students?
Yes. What do you like in a student? And as I said, everyone's different. So not like, oh yes, they have to be very brainy and focused. But not that that's bad.
Effort is number one. It doesn't matter what you know, what you don't know. It's your attempt to try to learn. I think in good conscience, nobody would fail anybody who's trying their hardest. And inquisitive mind, kids who really like to learn.
Yeah.
The cliche is you see the light go on, but you really do see the light go on when you're up at the front of the class, and that's rewarding.
Yeah, someone who's engaged in what's going on in the class, whether it's a conversation, whether it's the issues that we're just talking about in class. Someone who's just not sitting there just getting through the day. The idea is to have a discussion, have a dialogue, to talk about the issues that you're bringing up in class, and I think that's the important thing. And the effort is obviously there, and that will come with showing interest, I suppose. So.
What's the greatest challenge for being a teacher?
Dealing with you people. I'm kidding. There's a couple things. I think the sheer amount of paperwork can be overwhelming. It's all necessary, but there was no class I took in graduate school that taught me how to be a better secretary. And the other thing is just, I think, trying to connect the kids on a daily basis and trying to get them to understand that what we're doing at this point in time has a lot of value. And I remember being an 8th grader, being in high school and in junior high, and sometimes school just was not at the top of the list. There were so many other social concerns that kind of usurped my classroom experience. Being older now and on this end of the end of it, you can see that sometimes in kids when they're losing focus. They're thinking about a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a trip to the mall or whatever. So the challenge is to get everybody kind of dialed in at the same time on a daily basis.
And patience. Patience is a big thing, too. Obviously, there's 20 or 25 kids in the class. You're trying to do your best, try to make things interesting and make things happen. And, between the preparation and keeping things focused, it's a lot of work. So energy-wise has to be up there, too. That's a big challenge, to keep your be up for it, or be on, as they say, every day. It can be tricky sometimes.
Well, thank you guys so much
All
for
right.
talking to us.
No problem.
It
really
was interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just shout out to the class of 2008? They were my first class. I love you guys. Congratulations in advance.
So, we'll be right back, but thank you so much
right.
to our wonderful guests.
We're on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you after this. and welcome back to Speak Out. This is our final segment, and before we wrap up our whole school thingy topic. We're going to have Chris do our community calendar, so you can attend all of the exciting upcoming events.
Yes. All right, on November 25th, we have the 5K walk for Caroline's Cure at the Ahern track from noon to 3. Contact Amy Garbinet at 508-543-1112.
Probably.
I probably did pronounce her name wrong.
We'll probably stick without the...
November 28th and 29th is the Taylor PTO Holiday Shop from 3 to 7 p.m.
I bought my mom a vase there once. It was like $1.
That's pretty amazing.
Go.
November 30th, Improv Soup travels to the Arsenal Center of the Arts in Watertown to play with Improv Jones. Go to improvjones.org for directions. November 30th, 7 p.m. December 1st, 2 p.m. through 7 p.m. December 2nd at 2 p.m. Foxborough High School Drama Club. You can take it with you.
You can't take it.
You can't take it with
And they're
you.
supposed to be pretty good, so
Yep.
go see them.
Go see them.
It'll be good.
We also have the November 30th at 7:30 p.m. and December 1st at 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. and December 2nd at 2. The Uncommon Theater Company presents South Pacific at the Orpheum Theater. To get more information on that, go to www.uncommontheater.org for more details.
And I know for a fact that that's a good show because me and actually one of our camera people are the stage managers. So go see it. We're probably gonna just go into straight into some interesting anecdotes about school. So do you want to start off, Kendall? I believe that you and Chris have a little story of
Last year, it was probably like the last month of school. No, actually, it was 6th grade. 6th grade, the last month of school in 6th grade. People were IMing each other the night before about having a food fight during lunch. So the word spread so fast in school, and somehow the teachers found out.
And they were all in the cafeteria, and they're all like looking like this, and we didn't know if it was gonna start or not. So we're just like sitting there, and we're so scared because it was nacho day.
It was nacho day, and the principal had said, "We know what you're up to, so don't even think about it."
And that was the end of it.
That's a real bummer because
So then at the end of lunch, she called out 15 kids to her office.
Dude, can you imagine like going around for the rest of the day with
like
nachos in your
It's like chunky,
and the
sludgy.
nachos are so like stale and stuff too. I don't even buy school lunch anymore.
They're
I don't know if
terrible.
I'm allowed to say that, but like school lunch is icky to me.
Sorry.
No, I'm sure it's not the people, it's the like
The actual
Companies.
the
company that
easy
makes it.
cheese or whatever it's called.
It's okay. It will survive, I think.
So Tyler, you had one?
Yeah, well, what I did is, believe it or not, we actually got a letter here, and I thought that...
Do you want to save the letter for the end of the show? So that we can, because, you know, like a dramatic ending of people sending us mail, which we'd love for you to do, so please continue.
More mail, because, you know, it's the only one we got, and
it's creative.
Very creative.
we'll find out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out if it's creative or not, because clearly we don't know yet. We have nothing to do with this letter.
So,
I have a quick little anecdote before we wrap it up and move on to your glorious letter, which you clearly didn't write. So, once upon a time, there was an 8th grade class, and they had a wonderful math teacher, and they liked to play tricks on him. So one day at lunch, they all got together and figured out a way to mess with him a little bit. they all went into the classroom, and every time he turned around to write on the blackboard, we would scoot forward a little tiny bit. So by about halfway through the class, there was about this much space between the first desk and him. And, like, normally there's, like, a nice wide space. And he was not appreciative, so he was like, okay, guys, move back. And somehow we all kind of telepathically channeled to each other to, like, scoot backwards. So by the end of the class, we were, like, all the way at the back, and I thought it was really funny. I don't know if he appreciated it, but I thought it was pretty good.
If I were the teacher,
sounds
I
pretty
would, like,
amusing.
hate you guys.
I can imagine that.
Mail time.
Is
Mail
it mail
time?
time?
It's
Mail
mail
time.
time.
Mail time!
Wow. Oh, okay. So we have this letter to speak out, and yeah. So I'm going to open it up.
That was really dramatic.
Yeah, it's a pretty dramatic thing, I must say. Okay, here we go. Dear cast members of Speak Out, I really enjoyed your first show and thought you did an excellent job. It's pretty good.
Wow.
Especially Tyler, who is incredible, outstanding, and quite simply amazing. Well, oh yeah, the other people were good too.
Yeah, we
Thank
were.
you.
I was wondering, what should I eat for tomorrow? Moving on. I'd also like to know what the topic for your next show is. Well, we can address
Ooh,
that.
right.
Would you like to address that after? Or?
No, why don't we just
address it now?
keep it going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't we decide that it was?
Yes, for our next show, and I'm very excited about this because we don't necessarily know our way around the studio quite yet, as well as we'd like to. So, our next show, we're going to be taking a little kind of tour around this
Fun.
studio where we get
Go
to
behind the
gather
scenes.
in front of the cameras and get to show you what it's all about. So, we're very excited about that. Do a little bit of running around.
Okay. I guess I will continue. I'd really appreciate it if you could answer those questions during next episode.
Oh,
Well,
got
well,
it
that's
covered.
done.
We got one
We
down.
got one.
Thanks
Except
ag-
not the lunch. Don't
Thank-
have the nachos.
Yeah. Thanks again. Your biggest fan, Poncho Rains a lot.
Wow.
Well, that's ironic.
Thank you, Poncho.
P.S.
Poncho.
Hi, Tyler. You're my idol.
All
Works
right.
for me.
Good job, Tyler. Okay, Tyler's gonna go write some more lame letters unless you email
What?
us. Not that
No.
you would have written that.
Oh, come on.
So Tyler's gonna go write some more letters unless you email us, and our email is speakoutfoxborough at gmail.com.
Please email us.
So please email us.
Yeah, that would be pretty
And
amazing.
Thank you so much for watching. We will see you later. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And remember, always
Do.
Your.
Homework.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.